iBoy and Hung could bring that combo out instead. So it does mean Leyan will get that rumble for himself. So things like the Varus do become fairly high priority. Could see Viper going for something like the Varus, but still Ezreal, Kaisa also available for the AD carries. Very likely to see Jiejie on Udyr, let's be honest. We've seen him play it a bunch, and then it's really strong as well. So it does feel like that could be the answer, as well as maybe Flandre blind picking that Gwen once more.
We've seen Flandre probably the most proficient player on the pick thus far. I think you have some options now as EDG. They could go back to the kog'maw Lulu style. I don't think you pick that this early in draft. They did last time around, but we have seen that is open to punishment from how OMG played early in the day, where they even had OMG had the Rumble on their side, right? You have things like the Rumble, you have potential champions like a Kali coming out, and you can just dish out so much damage if you can coordinate that engage. One big difference, though, that RA wouldn't be able to string together is there is no set this time around. And I feel like that was a largely impactful pick in that first game of the day to being able to get on the members of IG to give OMG that win against the kog'maw Lulu.
See the Lulu locked in at very least. And you can expect a kog'maw alongside it, but I do think Lulu is just very strong right now regardless and can fulfill somewhat of a similar role to like when you see Thresh locked in, it usually says that it's going to be something like an Aphelios there. Lulu can also pair with the Aphelios very well, can still protect the hyper carry as it were. It's just kog'maw has that extra protection from Lulu, and that's the reason it's such a good combo, because she buffs up his auto attacks and can give him that movement speed, so he has a little bit more mobility himself. But it's going to be the Nautilus Kaisa coming through for iBoy and Hung. Very, very standard bot lane for the LPL.
And now is where we would expect that kog'maw pick. You already highlighted that Aphelios theoretically could be picked up too. Jinx is another champion that we actually haven't seen that much of Jinx this split, but she is sitting 4-1 right now in the LPL. Some teams have picked her up to great effect and decided to play with that one. So EDG still having a ton of sustain up in the top lane with what you'd expect. They have another shield enchanter to not only empower the kog'maw, but potentially empower Flandre later when he does get into these team fights. And now you wonder where EDG will go with these bans. You can ban out some of those all-in champions that could threaten the kog'maw, right? So maybe the Wukong being one where it's something we've seen against the Gwen numerous times. It has the ability to find flanks and get on the back line. The Akali, though FoFo hasn't played it, is another potential champion they could take away. But instead, they just want to all in on taking away strong lane champions. FoFo did play this last time around, but of course, this is a champion that can go up in that top lane. And sure, the Hollowed Mist does shut down some of the Jace poke and trades, but that's going to be on a cooldown. He will still have that range advantage to bull you out in extended laning phases.
Yeah, just blast your autos out, get your W off to get the triple auto. It does mean that Gwen has a hard time, because that's the thing. When your W is on cooldown, Gwen is extraordinarily squishy. So if you can get the W out, then go for an all-in as Jace, you easy win that trade. So Sylas taken off the board, removed from Scout. Not that surprising, right? With how Scout's been performing recently, I wouldn't want him to play the Sylas either. Then Wukong taken away from Cube. So it does feel like the positive lane matchups in that top lane are becoming rarer and harder to find.
I'm really surprised no Udyr ban coming out from the side of Rare Adam. It's been one of Jiejie's staples, though of course you do have other picks still available that are AD, offer, engage, and peeling.
There it is.
Xin Zhao is something that Jiejie can go towards. The Volibear still being left available as well. I would expect the jungle role to be filled by one of these two picks to just provide another tanky frontliner standing in front of this hyper carry in the bot lane.
Can I suggest something a little out there? I don't think it'll happen, but Olaf also is very good with the Lulu. Olaf is one of those champions that when he's enabled by something like a kog'maw or Lulu, can just tear through people, but it's going to be the Volibear this time anyway for Jiejie in the jungle.
And right, that combos well with the Lulu, but I think for EDG, the frame of mind is just a champion that maybe brings more durability, can easily more build into a tank role and just safely stand in front of the kog'maw. Would still be fun to see. That's definitely an old pairing where a lot of junglers are great on it. We are going to see the Gnar come out up against this Gwen in the top lane, though. I guess we can't knock out the fact that Jiejie can bring it into the jungle role, but like you said last game, we didn't really see it utilized to great effect. And after talking to players, they don't think it's particularly good. But we have an extremely dynamic matchup in the mid lane. Lucian up against the LeBlanc. Lucian will have the early prio, the ability to trade onto this champion. Scout going to be looking for those all-in windows later on. And for the side of RA, I don't know if they really have the same amount of all-in that we saw earlier in the day that was able to punish this sort of comp, but they do have a lot stronger laning phases coming in this time around, so they will have windows where they can potentially play and start to get advantages going ahead.
I'm excited for this mid lane though, Lyric, because if there are players that you want to see an aggressive mid lane that can go either way, a skill check mid lane, if you will, it's players like Scout and FoFo. Both of these guys have been on form as of late, Scout especially, and I feel like there's a lot of creativity that can come out in this matchup and a lot of skill expression, so it's going to be an exciting mid lane. And I think maybe for the first time this split, it's a mid lane where you can actually expect potential 1v1 action. There is all-in potential in this matchup.
And a lot of it's going to come down to how well FoFo does on the Lucian pick, because you have an extremely potent level 1, you have the ability to push the wave with your abilities. If he can especially land those piercing lights through minions and chunk out Scout early, it's going to give him a very tough time. You have the dash to try to dodge out on the chain, so that's why this matchup isn't one you've seen a lot of commonly, because it definitely feels like Lucian has a lot more tools to play around the LeBlanc than LeBlanc finding those all-in opportunities. But especially as you get more and more items, right? Lucian is still a squishy AD carry. Once you get 1-2 items under your belt, if you can land that burst, if you can land especially the chain, you will have that opportunity to go for the kill.
Does feel like, once again, we do have a kog'maw composition. Oh, wait, what? Meiko is nearly dead. Already had to flash. Looks like it was just a brush cheese coming out from RA in the bottom lane here. Meiko will be fine in the end, but that is going to be a flash down against Nautilus in lane. That can be a big issue. But once again, I just want to quickly talk compositions here, Lyric. Viper's playing this kog'maw. This composition is not built around just peeling for kog'maw, right? You've got a lot of threat yourself. So it does mean there is windows. We've seen it with the Kaisa, with the Rumble. When you can just get that dive onto the enemy kog'maw, you can shut it down. We saw it literally this morning.
Definitely. It's going to be harder to execute because, right, you're playing with Gnar bar, chaining that into like a Gnar ultimate with Equalizer, with Hung's depth charge, hopefully setting it all up, and then, you know, Lucian just kind of dancing around the fight to dish out the damage. But the difference is, I feel like you should have a lot stronger laning phases than we saw earlier. So with the fact that Meiko's already burned the flash, like you said, there's so much threat down in that bot lane. FoFo should have the early push, so maybe Leyan and FoFo being that mid-jungle, hovering towards the bottom side of the map and trying to shut down this AD carry pick early on.
The goal, at very least, is to clear that ward. I didn't think he was going to be able to get that one, as Cube trading with Flandre. And I have to say, this is a matchup I'm curious about. Again, we were talking about it earlier. We're still sort of discovering the Gwen matchups, right? We're figuring out what are going to be the answers in this top lane. And Gnar is one of the champions that, generally speaking, wins lane, right? He has a lot of very positive matchups, so I feel like this is going to be one of the champions that is likely one of the safer picks into the Gwen.
I think it'll be fine, but overall, I still think this is a Gwen-favored matchup. We saw level 1, you're still able to win out in the trade. Even in Mega Gnar form, with your W coming out, your passive, Gwen's actually able to pretty much stand toe-to-toe with Cube, and as long as he doesn't end up getting like stunned by the ultimate if he is against terrain, he's completely fine. And then if he's mini Gnar, once you hit 6, you hit the ult with the slow, you dash in with the E auto, get the ult once again, and there's actually a lot of kill potential coming out from Gwen in this matchup later on if Cube plays it wrong. So it's going to be interesting to see how Cube navigates this, because he's the first player to pull out this matchup in LPL so far. And from watching it in solo queue, from talking to players, it's not one that is very good or very easy for the Gnar side of the matchup.
All right, well, I misread that completely then. Well, I'm curious to see what Flandre can do with a favored matchup. I would have expected it to be more even than that, but I'm not a high elo top laner, right? So it makes sense that you'd know better on this one, Mr. Lyric. As he does have a CS advantage for himself, and Jiejie, he wants to set this up. Cube flashes away, does get the bounce off the minion wave, will survive for himself, so gets out with his life, but he's going to lose a lot of minions for this one.
Yeah, already starting that snowball, setting him behind, giving Flandre an even better position going forward, so having that XP advantage. He's going to hit 6 first later on, and then we're going to get to see that potential kill pressure coming out. And as we'd expect, right, FoFo doing a good job of controlling the mid lane. He also does have Ignite, so he's wanting to opt into aggressive trades. He knows he wins this matchup to where Scout taking Teleport, which will help him with his resets for laning phase for sure, but going to give him a lot more utility later on in trying to play the map. So EDG even having that potential 1-3-1 angle where they can pull RA across the map and abuse the fact that RA doesn't have anyone who can match both TPs on side lanes.
Really nice from Hung here. Very nice from Scout to set the lane up in a way where Hung actually has to roam to the mid lane just to break the freeze. Make sure FoFo can literally play League of Legends at all, because Scout had pulled so many minions off to the side, held that mid lane. It's such a horrible spot for FoFo. Now he'll be able to actually get his reset off without fear of just losing waves and waves and waves of minions.
Scout doing a nice job, though, of delaying that one, though, so gonna set him a little bit behind, especially with the fact that he doesn't have TP, right, having to run straight to the lane. And this wave is crashing into tower, so FoFo will at least lose a little bit. And we're seeing in the bot side, despite the fact that they were able to get Meiko's flash early, they aren't really up, but it is even. Once we see iBoy pick up this wave, farm's going to be about the same for iBoy and Viper, but Meiko's flash is back up. They're not feeling the same amount of threat that they've probably been feeling for the past few minutes. And now we go into the rest of the game, I think kind of smooth for the side of EDG for now.
Oh,
I'm wrong,
flash
though.
forward from Hung here to get the engage onto Meiko. He flashes himself. There's an answer from Leyan burning him through, but Meiko, he's got a health pot ticking and he's going to survive. And now Jiejie wants to re-engage, but Leyan throws out the flame spit and the hook comes back in from Hung. But here's Viper with the autos coming in. Flash forward from Viper. The aggressive combo knocked back in with the blast cone. And now it's Hung. Leyan trying to finish the kill. It's going to be 2 for 1. Now as Scout finally arrives in the fray, kog'maw passive onto iBoy. Flash available for the Kaisa, but it's Scout flashing onto FoFo instead. The bait and switch, the stun comes in, the Sky Split is there, and Scout gets the kill. 3 for 1 in favor of EDG.
And that looks so bad for EDG starting out, right? I can't believe Meiko lived with that sliver of HP. He got caught out. One of the reasons a lot of people didn't like enchanters for so long in the meta is because you aren't really able to walk in River by yourself. You are prone to getting picked off against these engaged champions. Is able to flash out. Viper putting out so much damage to get that first kill. Even though he goes down, the rest of EDG are able to collapse. As we are going to see here RA hooking back into multiple members because iBoy is following up. Viper flashing in aggressively to finish off that kill. Blast plant gets proc, he gets brought back in, but look at Jiejie. He's outputting damage the whole time. Meiko was there as well over the wall, providing some utility. And then Scout at this point is on the LeBlanc. Ooh, that was really, really nice from him. Running one way, flashing the other for the chain. FoFo didn't even expect it. The mind games coming out from Scout. And so far this split, it's been the soul laners for EDG that we've had to highlight again and again because they're making the really clutch, really flashy plays that are bringing out the kills for the squad.
Lyric, that is just classic misdirection right there from Scout. Classic misdirection. There is a ward here. Leyan is going to be spotted by it. We'll be able to clear that out. Hung noticed as well. So the deep play from RA will be spotted. And just look at the vision control that RA have in that bottom jungle. Even though they lost the Drake off the back of that fight, they have so much vision of the bottom side of the map. They know exactly where Jiejie is. They know he's up on the top side right now as FoFo takes yet another trade that it's not going too hot for him. He's out of corrupting pot stacks, whereas Scout still has 2 in his pocket after all of that.
I mean, right, you look, he was able to get the Lost Chapter on his back, and one of the things we saw in that lane is that it's pretty much every LeBlanc matchup that to be able to win, get your full combo off, you need to be hitting that E, force out the flash, Jiejie trying to follow for the kill, but not able to.
Yeah, I don't think anything's happening there. Good effort. I appreciate the attempt from Jiejie, but it was a little overzealous on the dive on that one.
Yeah, thinking they could get it, maybe hoping that the chain would be able to lock him down before he was able to close distance with the flash. Not able to happen, but still, right? Any map state like this for EDG is a completely fine one going into late game because they do have the kog'maw insurance policy. I don't even need to talk about Gwen. LPL fans have seen what Gwen does. And on top of all that, you're going to have Scout, who's already accelerating in his matchup, providing so much threat to what is a very squishy team composition with, you know, FoFo and iBoy.
Jiejie's managed to get an invade off here and we'll get away with the red buff. As iBoy was trying to move over. It's not happening though. And we are seeing a bit of a CS advantage for Leyan, but much more map impact for Jiejie, right, on this Volibear. Generally speaking, you are going to have a slower clear than that Rumble. You should fall a little behind when it comes to that jungle matchup, but it's about Volibear being much more effective at being a front line in that fight. He's there. He's happy to lose out in the early game so that Viper can have more in the later stages of the game. So we'll see if that's going to be able to come to pass. But so far, 1,500 gold lead in favor of EDG as they look for a 2v2 in the bottom side. How are they pulling this off?
Yeah, you know, we just pan right back to the scene when Hung is being forced back. He doesn't have his flash available, so not really able to find any types of all-ins just yet. And Viper and Meiko doing a great job of chunking them out before they're able to find those all-ins, right? The classic poke versus all-in lane. You whittle them down low enough to where they're under too much threat to even try to find and engage. Viper able to pick up a bunch of turret plates off of this, probably sitting on a pretty nice chunk of gold right now for when he decides to back. We did see pinks come out from EDG earlier around the Rift Herald, but nothing just yet.
Not wanting to go for that one just for now. Viper toying with the idea of going further. Had flash. I think that's a kill onto iBoy if he really wanted it, but favoring to go for these turret plates, favoring to deny CS for iBoy as well. Importantly, he needs to survive so that they can control this lane and make sure that they're in charge of the bottom side of the map here. They are getting so many plates. Look at the gold difference between AD carries already, just with the one kill on either side of the map, but that CS advantage with the plates as well. Viper's almost 1,000 gold up individually.
Yeah, and I mean, all of EDG are above gold over their counterparts other than in the jungle role. EDG still feeling confident they can contest this.
Equalizer comes out. That should secure the Herald here. Does go down Leyan to finish it. And they really want to pick up that eye, but EDG are threatening. They're not going to let them. Jiejie walks in. Hughes, not that tanky just yet. It's going to be difficult for him to really make anything happen. And it looks like the eye will vanish. So 100 gold is all RA get for this play.
Especially after the equalizer was used, right? You really can't contest with EDG in that straight up 3v3. We see them looking for a window mid now. Scouts LeBlanc.
Scouts just used distortion here, but Hung can't find the hook. So it's not going to happen in the end. You're right. Scout gets away.
Now we're going to be putting our eyes towards the bottom side of the map, right? Because that is where Dragon is. EDG have been the ones controlling the bottom lane. Sure, FoFo's been able to push the waves, but we've seen Scout is the one that has kill threat in this matchup, so he's done a pretty good job of being able to keep that prio, especially with him TPing back to mid now. This really signals that EDG should be the team who are able to pick up the straight.
You would expect so, especially just the Phantom Dancer already coming for Viper. Like, he's mental strong. Like, for anyone that doesn't know how the new Phantom Dancer works as well, you get a bunch of attack speed after a couple of autos. Basically, you get a burst of attack speed for your next few autos. That on top of Hail of Blades, your first few autos to get that burst are fast because of Hail of Blades, and then your autos are fast because of Phantom Dancer. So it's like this perfect combo of just essentially lethal tempo for your first 9 auto attacks or something along those lines. Really strong combo of a rune and an item there. And with Infernal Drake being the next one, it does feel like that could be advantageous to Scout. Not taking the best trade of his life there.
I mean, right, he missed his initial chain and then used the follow-up one. It looks like maybe still hoping he could set up a gank for Jiejie. Jiejie already had started to back off, so not in range. But EDG trying to set up something here.
Flash away from Hung, forcing him out of the area as the ward comes down. Vision control is acquired. It's an equalizer onto 3, but with absolutely no follow-up available. Like, who else could go in? Hung's just splashed away on half of his HP, so equalizer for naught in the end. But it doesn't look like EDG are actually comfortable enough to just go for the Drake here. Instead, gonna look for this last available plate. Gonna take half of iBoy's health with just 3 auto attacks because kog'maw is in a perfectly fine and balanced state in the current game. Not salty at all as the Drake is taken by EDG.
Yeah, you know, take Drake. They're able to get plates in the bot side of the map as well. Jiejie can come hover around and threaten to dive on this side. They should assume that Leyan is on that top half of the map, so extending a massive lead for them. Sure, Scout has fallen back to even in CS. It looks like he's getting ganked on the mini-map, but Flandre also ahead by a massive margin in the top side.
You know, it's a scare. Oh, hang on, we've got a play in the middle. What? Whoa, where did Leyan go? It's like a magic trick. He's vanished. Hung now in trouble as the Bio Arcane Barrage comes in, and a bear falls out of the sky onto his head. Suddenly, the support and the jungler are just gone from RA. That'll be a red buff taken. If kog'maw needed any more advantages in this lane, he now has a red buff as well. They can swap into the mid lane if they want to. Scout can go off in the side lane. Feels like everything is getting set up for a very strong mid game for EDG.
I mean, this was just nice, right? Shane into the flash over the wall with the RQW. So using that flash, we can then get off his full combo of damage onto him. That's why he just instantly disappeared. And now Hung trying to get vision when they just took bottom turret. You know they're here. And yeah, just gets picked off in transition of trying to get vision somewhere he realistically shouldn't be. And RA not trading gold on the opposite side of the map. They did try to get that gank off in mid off screen, but clearly weren't able to pull it off, right? Not only does LeBlanc put immense pressure on you and your backline later on, but extremely hard champion to pull ganks off with, which is why we expected the play pattern from RA this game was going to be, hey, you have push in mid, try to rotate that somewhere else, not try to actually attack the LeBlanc itself.
Well, not what they ended up doing in the end. Now they are, unfortunately, feeling the rough end of the stick from that one. kog'maw going to be pushing up in the top side as Meiko has moved over to help Jiejie try and secure this Scuttle Crab. Viper's moving over as well. It looks like this is a full feed the puppy kind of composition right here, but Jiejie's red buff, I think, finished that one off in the end. iBoy is up here, but he is alone, and we all know what happens when Viper gets just a single auto in. He's able to chase that one down, and he's able to get a lot of damage done. Plates have gone though, so this tower really won't last a very long time if Viper's able to free hit onto it. There we go.
Oh my
basically
goodness,
forced out of the lane.
Yeah, just a few autos coming out with the power up from Meiko as well. Jiejie now, and it's the same game. When you're winning this much, you don't even necessarily have to go for anything. You just bring more numbers here. Already have to back off, and you're able to just hit that turret for free. It
just gets the whimsy from Meiko, and it's the fastest little pug you ever did see. It's adorable. And now it's melting Hung before our very eyes. What is this champion? Scout now is in trouble as he gets all in by FoFo, but FoFo is going to answer with his life by the looks of things. Flandre here to answer. And now Cube looking to turn this one over. Great equalizer across a few people. Cube about to turn into that Mega Gnar. Meiko trying to get away through the fire and the flames here. Jiejie over the wall with his own ultimate, and Viper has arrived. He's ready to melt some health bars. Leyan feeling the wrath of that one as Cube desperate to go in, but he finds no opportunity.
And just look at the spacing on the return damage, right? Like he knows he's able to walk forward, does it, outputting as much damage as possible. Even when the fight started, he was hitting some of the members while a Scout and FoFo were trading blows. But they did respect the fact that Cube was close to Mega. The equalizer came out, it did chunk out certain members, but in the end, you trade one for one. A Viper...
Oh my god. Viper does not care about towers. He just runs. He sees iBoy, he just gets red in his eyes, and he just sprints at him with the whimsy. It is terrifying to witness.
Yeah, we're going to get a replay here of how Scout goes down. So Scout was trying to look for the flank, coming from behind the turret to force him off. I mean, they just all turn the corner, and he goes down instantly. Flandre TPing in to take out FoFo. Also did get the Lulu ultimate. We're coming right back into Flandre saying, hey, RA, this isn't your map, this is ours.
Yeah, RA want to get themselves a Herald here. Cube's on the other side of the map. He's currently Mega Gnar, so if a fight kicks off, even if he TP's in, he's not going to be in a good position in terms of that Gnar. He's going to be into that mini Gnar. So now you see RA backing away from the Herald. This will go the way of EDG because, let's be honest, as you rightly say, Lyric, this map belongs to them. They can take whatever they want. Now reset come through from Flandre because Drake's going to be up in 25 seconds and EDG have got to make their way towards this bottom side of the map.
And they had already just pushed out the top wave as well, so they don't need to worry about that. All members can start heading down there. RA will have vision first, but it shouldn't mean too much. Jiejie can walk in safely. And, you know, when will this kog'maw damage stop being surprising, Munch?
It won't. It never will. It's, like I said a couple of times, it's meant to be a late-game champion, but it's not right. It's fine on one item. It's fine before one item. It's kind of insane with Halo plates. Flandre's here. Hung flashes forward here. Aftershock keeping him alive for a bit, but Flandre just jumps into the middle of everyone, and Leyan forced away on the back of the fight. A valiant attempt from Hung. I like the idea. I do like team fighting, but I'm not sure that you're strong enough to be able to go for that. He's 0-3 now. Is RA going to position on the dragon? I think they may be misunderstanding what's happening in this game here. Viper's in trouble, though, as in goes iBoy to finish that one off. Cube now will be slowed. The kog'maw passive is there. It's going to be kill for a kill in terms of the AD carries there, as iBoy basically just about escapes, but it should be the Drake for EDG.
I mean, the thing is, right, this is a concept that we've talked about a lot before of, like, how to play when you're, like, from behind, when you're behind, of, like, you know, looking at things like your scaling or how fights play out. And I think RA feel very unconfident the longer this game goes forward, so they're leaning more towards, hey, it's not about, you know, defensive vision or finding picks or trying to, you know, catch people out their side lanes. They want to make it more volatile. They want to make it more of a coin flip or just look for that every time. Hope EDG makes a mistake. Hope you catch someone off guard. And, you know, that can turn into some kind of, you know, maybe big team fight win to where you can get an objective. But that is preying a lot on EDG's mistakes, which they are making.
Oh my God.
RA's making those.
Yeah, I mean, every time Leyan walks near Scout, he just gets one shot. Let's take another look at the fight. This is after the first engage. Viper just gets a little bit greedy for these autos. Really good engage from Cube, and iBoy able to follow up.
Yeah, Scout goes in. And iBoy on the opposite side following up the pick, like you said. You see the slow coming out from Meiko, and I mean, that was... You know, I'm kind of surprised we got a replay of that. That was pretty straightforward.
I think the replay was to show Scout killing FoFo. I think that was the goal of the replay, because we were kind of focused on the AD carries the first time. And then I replayed the AD carries anyway, because I'm a monkey brain play-by-play, and that's what we do. We see things happening, and we shout about it, okay? It's who I am. 5,000 gold lead, though, right now for EDG, and Baron is on the map, Lyric, and I feel like with a kog'maw that's already got 2 items, they're definitely the kind of team that's willing to just pull the trigger on that.
Yeah, I feel like EDG realistically can make any decision they want. They can 1-3-1 and play 2 side lanes because both of their soul laners are stronger. If they want to try to bait out this objective, the chances there is Scouts LeBlanc we still fine, but you know, we don't see anyone matching Flandre right now on the bottom side, so I think as EDG, you let him keep pushing out that wave, force someone to show on bot wave. It's most likely going to be Cube, right? Because Cube has TP and FoFo doesn't, and that's when you can like make the plan to try to bait Baron. Maybe not only try to bait out the TP, but it'd be nice if you can get something like the Equalizer off the table and then, you know, just kind of bounce off that objective and move towards something else. But instead, Viper feels safe. He's going to run forward. He's going to threaten iBoy, and EDG should be able to take this turret.
Yep, Herald comes down. Scout jumping over the wall, trying to one-shot Leyan again, and almost does it. Almost. If he'd hit the chain, perhaps there was an opportunity there. But the Herald, this is going to get a second charge as well. There's a minion there if someone's willing to tank the tower. Don't think they can quite finish that one off for now, but a lot of the work done for later is Viper out trading FoFo at this point. Depth charge with a culling there, but Viper's still full HP, and Flandre is threatening the rest of the team. They're just going to dive this one instead. Tower barely surviving, and Viper gets the sniper out. Easy kills for EDG, and now they can just waltz this one home. Down goes this mid lane tower. The inhib will fall. I don't know if EDG can finish the game right here, but let's be honest, it's all but done and dusted.
My big takeaway from that was the damage coming out from Flandre, right? Because it looks like his combination of ult and, you know, stacking up the cube, getting that onto multiple members is what got Leyan and Hung so low to where Viper can go for that snipe. They are going to go for the Baron. They realize, hey, RA are obviously going to come check. Scout waiting in the wings for a flank, seeing if he'll be able to pick someone off.
Someone comes out, RA trying to make their way in. It's just going to be burnt on through here. Smite comes out. It is going to be Baron for EDG. RA wants to try and deny this, but Flandre over the wall. And it doesn't look like RA get anything. It's a heartbreaker. They're too late to the birthday party, and they don't even get a party bag to take home.
You know what's crazy to me is that this is the highest ranked team from last season that EDG are facing, and this is their most decisive win by far. The BLG series, I mean, they lost one game, which they were winning, had a dominant game, one game was close. The IG series was pretty close despite a 2-0. I think a lot of people would say IG should have won that second game, but Flandre coming in massive. And now against RA, it's so dominant, it's so clean. They have a very clear idea of how they want to draft. Everyone's performing well. It's just, man, especially me and you, because me and you didn't initially rank EDG in our top 4 power rankings. You know, having hopium for other teams, bit of disrespect. We definitely owe EDG some apologies. Still, they don't care. They don't care what we think, but EDG are such monsters right now.
I did it in spring as well. In spring, I said they weren't going to make playoffs, and I could not have been more wrong. And now in summer, I was like, they'll finish 5th, and they are looking terrifying as Leyan gets pushed away from the tower. Here we go. Hook on to Jiejie. In goes Cube, but he can't get the ult off, and now Hung's going to be in trouble. Equalizer's not going to do a whole lot from Leyan. And, well, this is going to be all she wrote, I'm pretty sure. Flandre charging in. 1 or 2 more autos will do the trick. FoFo getting onto the fountain. Maybe can answer, but the shield comes through from the Lulu. Meiko keeping everybody safe. And now onto the Nexus towers. Go EDG. We've seen some one-sided games in the LPL, and this may not be the fastest of them, but this was one of the most decisive wins I've seen this split so far as we head into the first day, as we round out the first day of our second week. EDG look dominant.
EDG looking like monsters. Now, you know, the thing that I'm sure we all really want to see is put this team up against an RNG, put this team up against an FPX, you know. How do they look right now? Because in the games we've seen, they look terrifying. To where in spring you'd be like, okay, you know, Flandre isn't playing that well. I think you can look at some of their objective setups, or even at that time in transition where, you know, you take one Drake and go to the next, where certain members are getting picked off. There are a lot of areas where you can be like, hey, EDG are struggling here. Right now, sure, we've seen some struggles in some games, but the fact that they pretty much have won in every way, like they've come back from a loss and from a deficit and shown that mental fortitude. They've had stomps, they've had back and forth games, they've adjusted in draft. It seems like they've learned things from the fact that they picked up the Senna Karma, you know, against BLG, which they might have been playing things like that in scrims. They can play the kog'maw style comps. Like EDG right now are very versatile. They are sticking to like certain champions that they think are strong, right? They're going to keep going back to the Gwen. They're clearly on the Enchanter hype train. So maybe they're just the first team to really figure out what's best in this meta. But point is, whatever it is, like they're doing their philosophy, it looks right. It looks correct.
It looks fantastic right now. And I mean, I think you hit the nail on the head when you were talking about their match history and the fact that they've only lost the one game. It was versus BLG. I know I sound like a broken record. That was versus that Senna Karma. That was the first time we saw that Senna Karma. I think EDG were the first team like me to go, hey, that's real oppressive. We're going to ban it, or we're going to play it every single game, every single time. Ever since that moment, they haven't lost the game. I genuinely think EDG at this point, from what we've seen right now, they're one of the strongest teams in the league. Obviously, we haven't seen RNG play just yet. FPX looking good. Like, there's a lot of teams that are looking good, but EDG look really dominant in a lot of their wins, and it doesn't feel like they're making very many mistakes regardless of their opponent.
I agree. And again, I always look at like individual quality of players, especially early on in the split. And when you have everyone who's able to pop off on your roster, that's one of the things that make top esports scary, is that it doesn't matter. Like, think about top esports. They could have nothing else going on for them. You just think about the individual player quality and you rank them as a top team. So when you have a team like EDG, where everyone is playing like superstars, and they do have other things on top of that, that's just so deadly. But coming into this game, that bottom lane was absolutely nuts. We saw, sure, Meiko somehow had to blow flash at level 1. It didn't mean a thing. They were dominating that bot lane 2v2 the whole time. So wouldn't be surprised if, you know, Viper picks up that MVP this game. But Scout, I think, doing very well in the laning phase to not really fall behind FoFo, and even getting ahead once FoFo started making some mistakes. Flandre only needed one gank, and then it was smooth sailing for him in that matchup.
Just look at the AD carry damage difference, man. Like 16,000 for Viper, 5,000 for iBoy. It's a brutal comparison, and it is the nature of it. When you fall behind on the Kaisa, it's very difficult to. You're very short range, right? You need an opportunity to be able to get in and use the killer instinct, get the isolated Q off. But unfortunately for iBoy, those opportunities were few and far between. Just the one that Cube set up for him onto Viper in that mid-game dragon fight that he was able to get. But even then, it felt like, okay, you managed to take down Viper. Well, Scout and Flandre are just going to take over the fight instead. It's not like this kog'maw was the only threat. It's just that he was incredibly strong in the bottom side. He was definitely the main threat, but there was plenty more where that came from EDG. So it felt like there were very few ways for EDG to lose a fight, to be quite honest. So I'm excited to see the rest of the split for this roster. I'm excited to see what they have up ahead of them. And I just want to see whether or not they can maintain that consistency in playoffs. Because I think, certainly from my perspective, I don't know what your opinion is on this, but from EDG, I was kind of disappointed that they lost to RNG in the semi-final. I feel like the first 2 games of that semi-final, they didn't show up. They didn't show the EDG that we'd seen earlier on in the split. So we already know that they're a great team. We've already seen that they're a great team. Now they've just got to prove that they can be consistently a great team and not fall at the final hurdle this time around.
Yeah, I'm kind of looking at their schedule, right? We'll see them again against Rogue Warriors on Saturday. So, you know, Rogue Warriors coming in with a very different lineup. That one, EDG definitely should be heavy favorites. Play Sunni next week, but I think the first big matchup will be next Sunday where they do play JDG. JDG are another team who right now look incredibly strong, and that'll be where we learn a lot about this EDG team.
All right, well, our MVP for that game is going to go the way of Jiejie, as he managed to do a lot of work from the jungle, setting his team up. Really, really confident performance, and very confident on the dives as well on that Volibear. So really nice stuff, and I think that's a well-deserved MVP. I think there's one of those games where a lot of different people you can make a good argument, but Jiejie setting a lot of these plays up.
Yeah, and he was one of the players we talked about the least, right? Because, I mean, it just kind of happens by a byproduct of talking about the game, is that you're drawn towards the flashier moments. But Jiejie did a great job of utilizing the lane priorities in the laners well to find the situations to set them up. This was another moment that you highlighted earlier with the Volibear in the game, but looking for those dives, playing around mid consistently as well to find the windows. And Jiejie's just a player that the longer he's been in LPL, the better and better he's looked. I still remember a time where people were talking about Jiejie, like, oh, Jiejie, you know, we need a different jungler on the Rift. Like, why is he here? But now I think a lot of people very clearly have Jiejie in high regard and consider him one of the upper junglers in LPL.
Yeah, it does feel like he's grown a huge amount as a player. And it feels like he's a very intelligent player as well. And speaking of the devil, we're going to go have a chat with him. So I'm going to pass it over to Wendy.